A man from Lowndes County is accused of trying to tamper with a witness in the case of singer Rkelly. He's currently being held in a South Florida prison. Our WALB News 10's Jennifer Moorjohn joins us outside of the Lowndes County Sheriff's Office with details.
Carla, according to these documents, 3 men have been arrested on separate schemes to harass and threaten alleged Rkelly victims, and one of those men is from Valdosta. Michael Williams was arrested in Broward County, Florida. He is currently being held at the prison according to inmate records. According to the Department of Justice in the Eastern District of New York, Williams is a relative of a former publicist for Kelly. The Lowndes County's office was one of the 13 agencies that assisted in the case.
They used our facilities for some pre-planning with our people, and we went to the location with them just as extra security. There was actually ATF was working the situation in Valdosta on a car. That was the one they seized in Valdosta. It was ATF working it.
A New York grand jury charged Rkelly with racketeering and a few Mann Act violations, which is federal law that forbids transporting women and girls across state lines for illegal sexual activity, along with other indictments, including bribery. Court documents state one victim, identified as Jane Doe, cooperated with law enforcement early this year. Documents allege Williams lit a car on fire in front of Jane Doe's house to stop her testimony. In June, the car was leased by the alleged victim's father and was severely damaged by the fire. Someone inside the home claimed to see a man running away after hearing the explosion. Surveillance video in the area showed a car speeding away. Documents state it was a GMC Yukon owned by Williams. A federal court ordered Google to search for users who have searched the address of the victim's home around the time of the arson. Phone records showed the phone belonged to Williams and was connected to his Valdosta home. Records showed the phone was in Kissimmee, Florida, and Valdosta later on that afternoon. Google also found searches like Rkelly News, why fertilizer can be an explosive mixture, along with videos of Jane Doe. The complaint says, through toll records and photographs, there's proof that Williams had driven from Georgia to Florida. The GMC Yukon at Williams' home had no front license and was damaged. That's where Lowndes County Sheriff's Office comes in.
We met prior to them serving the warrant on the car to make sure we were organized and location, and also just standing by in case they needed extra help. That was our main involvement.
The Valdosta Police Department also assisted. Scotty Johns with VPD tells me detectives assisted the Department of Homeland Security's investigation that happened in Valdosta. According to the Eastern District of New York spokesperson, he tells me Williams will be transported by the U.S. Marshal back to New York for prosecution.
Hey, so what's up, y'all? So before I even get into my commentary about this entire situation, before we start talking too deeply about Michael Williams, before we start talking about Rkelly and any other people associated, affiliated, allegedly with Rkelly and so on and so forth, before we even get too deep into that, we all need to take a step back. It doesn't matter if you support Rkelly. It doesn't matter if you're against Rkelly. Everybody needs to take a step back and understand, or at least appreciate. And I don't even know if appreciate is the word that I want to use. I think everyone needs to be wary or careful of the times that we're living in. We live in a day and time whereby we volunteer all of our information to be handed over to corporations. That's the day and time we're living in. We live in a day and time where we are allowing corporations to track us. We live in a day and time where the corporations actually know more about ourselves than we know. I mean, think about it. You are not paying attention to your habits. You're not paying attention to how often you drive to your favorite restaurant. You're not paying attention to how often you call your girlfriend or your boyfriend. You are not paying attention to how your eating habits. You're not paying attention to how often you go to the grocery store, so on and so forth. I think a lot of things that we do because it's habitual, but I don't think we actually pay attention to that habitual information, right? So Google has this information and they have a file on you, right? They have, and I don't even know if a file is the right word to actually use, but they have your life in the palm of their hands. That's the best way to basically put it. And they can predict any and everything about you. They can predict when you're going to get horny. Or when you get aroused. They can predict when you get hungry. They can predict, your spending habits, so on and so forth. And in this situation, you have to pay attention to how they actually caught Michael Williams. Essentially, the investigation started with the burning of his car. What I can't remember, or what I'm not too clear on, is whether or not they had a warrant, but I don't think they actually have to have a warrant from the search that they did. They didn't say, well, we have a warrant for Michael Williams' data. What they did is something different, and I don't even know if it's actually lawful, right? So what they did is actually, they said, well, we have this burned car, and we believe it was a crime, and we believe it was intentional. So we have probable cause, right? And I'm not sure this was the logic used to get Google to assist with the investigation, but I suspect it was, right? They're saying that, we have this crime, someone burned this car, and we're going to go to Google and we're just going to ask if they can help with the investigation. Google then turns around, or they requested from Google. I can't remember which one happened. I believe, if I can remember from watching this video, that they gave Google a search criteria, and that search criteria probably contained anyone whom would have done a Google search for, the alleged witness. They probably gave Google a criteria from anyone who would have recently traveled to and around the car when it was at the time that it was burned. So they have cell phone records. So when you drive around, you're pinging off of cell phones, right? So they probably ask for that information, and then what I'm trying to say is that they gave Google a list of criteria, and they want anybody that falls in that criteria. So if you were driving around this area around about this time, we want to pull the names of that individual. If you were doing searches on this alleged witness, we want to pull data. We want to pull the names of the person that was doing searches for this person. And they probably also limited it to who actually lived in the area. I'm not sure if they actually did that, but someone sat down and they thought about all the different criterias that would go into their search, and they asked Google to basically give them the names and addresses of all the people who fit that search criteria, right? So, and to me, it's amazing and it's scary at the same time, because what if Michael Williams didn't actually do it, right? So we're going to talk about in another video that he's already pled guilty. We're going to get into how that's going to play out for Rkelly. We'll talk about that a little bit here. But what if you just happen to be in the area, and what if you just happen to search the name of the alleged victims? Then you could be implicated in this crime. And I just think this is crazy, and I think it's frightening. For the prosecutors, though, it looks like they actually got the person that they were looking for because he pled guilty. So it worked out for the prosecutors, right? Another thing that I noticed is that the Department of Homeland Security was involved in this arrest, and I'm like, wow, the Department of Homeland Security, why in the world did they get involved, right? Because this is apparently just a burning car. So it makes me think that there was something a little bit more going on here. But apparently the Department of Homeland Security can get involved in human trafficking cases, and they can get involved into terrorism cases and cyber crimes, right? So I'm not sure what logic was done to get the Department of Homeland Security involved. It could have possibly been that they were already involved, and once they got the Google search criteria, they said, well, we better bring in Homeland Security. I'm not sure, right? So I'm throwing it out there. If you know how the Department of Homeland Security got involved, let me know, or let us know, right? Comments below. But I just want to point out how crazy it is that we've gotten to the point where they are going to use all of your personal information against you, right? So this not only applies to criminal cases, but it's also going to apply to civil cases. I believe in freedom. I believe in privacy. And when we look at this case with Michael Williams, I think that there's certain aspects of this that he probably should have fought, but he's already pled guilty, and I don't know. You guys, let me know what you think. Do you think the guilty plea actually means that he was guilty, or do you think that maybe there's a possibility rather that he just looked at all the evidence and he saw his chances and he says, you know what, I have no chance of winning this. I'm just going to go ahead and plead guilty. It happens, right? I'm not saying that's the case here, but it actually happens. I was actually watching something on Dateline where they actually got this guy in a room and they wore him down, and they essentially proved to him that he was never going to win and he was going to jail anyway. And then the guy says, forget it, I'll just plead guilty. And he's thinking he's just going to get maybe a slap on the wrist and he can go home. And the guy ends up with this huge prison sentence. And while he's in jail, the mother of the lady that was actually killed, she goes out and she finds the actual killer. And years later, this guy gets released. So these things do happen. I'm not saying that Michael Williams was innocent or guilty. That's not what this video is about. I'm just really just kind of amazed of how they found this guy. You should be amazed. Are you not amazed by the fact that they found this guy by pulling information from Google? And this is just crazy, because I think there's an invasion of privacy aspect in this. If I were Michael Williams, of course I'm not, and of course I would never burn anybody's car. That's just not even my MO. But you would have to imagine that an innocent person would have fought this tooth and nail, and one of the defenses, I think, could have been invasion of privacy. Do you think invasion of privacy could have been a defense for Michael Williams? Let me know what you think. Your questions and comments below. I think the invasion of privacy could have gotten the charges against him thrown out. But again, I don't know if he did it or not. He pled guilty, so we have to believe that he did it. And I don't support people who go off burning witnesses' cars. Let's get that out there. I don't support abusing victims, and I don't support beating up alleged victims on the internet. That's not my MO. I'm just simply talking about law, right? So getting into the Rkelly portions of all this, I think that what's going to happen, and you're going to hear me repeat this in another video, I think that the government is slowly but surely winning their case before they actually go to trial. Now, I know if you're an Rkelly supporter and you come to my page or you come to my YouTube channel and you see my videos, you don't want to hear me saying stuff like this, but I'm just giving you the reality, right? And what I mean by that is that they've already gotten Richard Arline Jr.'s guilty plea, right? Now they have Michael Williams' guilty plea, okay? The only person left is Don Russell's guilty plea, right? And to be honest with you, at this point, they really don't need Don Russell's guilty plea, because what they already have is that they have Richard R. Lyons Jr.'s guilty plea. And by the way, I think I've done a video called Richard R. Lyons Jr.'s guilty plea and what it means for R. Kelly. Go and check that out. And, essentially some of that stuff is rehashed here, but there's a lot of stuff in that video that's not. So they already have Richard R. Lyons Jr. guilty plea. And now they have just gotten Michael Williams guilty plea. Now, you're not stupid. Nobody's stupid. Everybody knows what's going on. They're getting these pleas before R. Kelly's trial. And that's important, and you have to know that that's important because they need those pleas because they are going to try to use Richard's plea, and they're going to try to use Michael's plea to say, hey, look, this guy has a organization, and he uses his organizations to do A, B, and C, and he also uses his organization to intimidate the witnesses. This is how they're going to try to substantiate the RICO charge, right? And unfortunately, I hate to say this, but it's not really looking too good for R. Kelly because they've gotten these guilty pleas. Now, their next step is to go into court, and they're going to get one or two things to happen. They're either going to get the people who gave the guilty pleas, Richard and Michael, to somehow say that they were affiliated with R. Kelly in some type of way, right? They're going to try to get that, right? If they don't have it already, right? If they don't get that, then they're simply just going to try to tie them in to R. Kelly anyway. They may not even need the actual testimony from Richard and Michael. They may just try to establish the connection by saying, hey, how long have you known R. Kelly? Where did you meet R. Kelly? So on and so forth, and who introduced you into R. Kelly? And then they're going to connect the dots that way. They don't even have to get them to actually confess that, R. Kelly got them to do this. And I'm not saying R. Kelly did, right? So, and again, if you are an R. Kelly supporter and you're coming to my page, please don't bash me, right? It's just time for us to start getting real because the things that they're doing is they're trying to tie these guys into R. Kelly, and you can't ignore this, right? You can't ignore these tactics that they're using. Now, again, I'm not saying that I believe in any of this stuff, but you have to face what's in front of you, and what's in front of you is the two guilty pleas by people who are basically pleading guilty that they intimidated and bribed the witnesses. And you have to believe that they're going to use that in R. Kelly's trial. Otherwise, they wouldn't have put so much effort in getting this before R. Kelly's trial, right? Typically, they would have just let these guys sit in prison until they're ready, until maybe a year or two from now, but they've gotten these guilty pleas immediately, right? So it's going to be tough for R. Kelly. So obviously, in order for R. Kelly to rebut or to protect himself or to defend himself against the RICO charge, he's going to have to prove that he's not affiliated with Richard R. Lyons Jr. He's going to have to prove that he's not affiliated with Michael Williams. And I also believe that he's going to have to prove that he doesn't have much of an affiliation with Don Russell. And the reason I say that, even though Don Russell's trial hasn't started, and even though, the hearing, right? Like the case, he's been indicted, but there's no hearing for Don Russell. And I don't suspect that Don Russell will have a hearing before R. Kelly has his hearing in New York, which is where the RICO charge is important. The reality is they have those indictments, and they're going to tie in R. and Williams to R. Kelly, right? So this is just crazy. So R. Kelly is going to have to prove that he doesn't really have a real affiliation with those guys, and he's going to have to somehow prove that he doesn't have an affiliation with Don Russell. One of the defenses to the RICO charge is that you've sort of broken off the friendship with the alleged accomplices, and you haven't associated with them in an extended period of time. That's one of the defenses against the RICO charges, and Rkelly is going to have to somehow show this, right, as it pertains to these three guys. So that's pretty much it for this video. You guys let me know what you think. Do you think the guilty plea by Michael Williams is going to impact the Rkelly trial? I think it is. Do you think that they're going to be able to convict Rkelly of the RICO statute, right? That's a tough one for me. I think the RICO statute being used in Rkelly case is 100% nonsense. But let me know what you think. That's it for this video. Questions, comments below. Please like, share, and subscribe.